Hello, everybody, and this is AnimeQuest here doing my first impressions of the first two episodes of Dimension W. And let me just tell you that my impressions, well, I don't know. If you want the short and sweet version, the show looks nice, the story seems promising. I like the characters so far, both in writing and design, and, well, I think it's going places that might be good. It honestly looks like it's about to turn into a find the illegal coils of the week sort of thing, kind of like a monster of the week type show, but that's not necessarily a bad thing depending on how it's executed. And I really am enjoying it so far, but I've got a bit to say about it. First off, the opening of the anime itself, and I'm not talking about the opening song, I just mean like the opening scene as well as the narration that followed. It's it's kind of well, brash in execution. It really kind of just happens and it throws you into this world with fairly limited explanation. That being said, a lot of explanation for all at once for the time given, and it becomes a bit confusing and jarring right off the bat. You're given explanations of the new power source, what happened to the old power sources, that there are illegal entities using these power sources, things like that. It's kind of a bit of technical jargon, but it's still somewhat interesting. Now, what becomes more interesting later on is actually when you start getting a sense of the characters. You realize that this world is, different than our own. That they're using a new power source, these coils, as they have explained in the show at the beginning so far. You see that there are robots, all sorts of futuristic settings, and this is why I say brash. We're given a lot without explanation because we're shown so many various things. Even in the first episode, we're told about how gas is becoming irrelevant. We're shown robots and robot fights and these coils, and that there's like the X, Y, and Z dimensions. There's a new dimension called Dimension W that was discovered in 2036 and a bunch of craziness. And this is the biggest problem so far, is that it's kind of like sidelining you with all this information that and it's all a lot to process all at once. Like I said, I'm fresh off of it and I still don't know really what's going on. I know there's two episodes, so we'll see. We'll see how it gets and if they start to explain things a bit better later on in the anime. That being said, back to the topic of the characters. Our main boy, our main man, Kyoma, he's this man, he's this guy, he's this thing, he's a human being called a collector, and what they do is they go after illegal coils because illegal coils are bad because, they're illegal and stuff. And that's basically his job. Now, he's old, he's grizzled, he's known about the pre-war times. I say pre-war because in episode 2, they give us a hint of this war that happened, an incident involving, non-coil users against people who are trying to make the change. And he's one of those people, he's not so crazy about coils. So in order to maintain his existence, because gas is way expensive and he drives an old type of car that uses gas, it's not an electricity car, a hybrid like anything else. He's pretty old school, In fact, the only thing I've seen him use that even has any coils is his cell phone, which that probably has to be done. He probably needs coils for a cell phone to keep communication with like his contacts and his boss Mary, but she's a different time. We talk about her a different time. Next is the character of Mira. She's a robot, basically. A robot that I can only describe as having Pinocchio syndrome. She thinks she's a human. Well, I guess Pinocchio didn't think he was a human. He just wanted to be a human. Anyways, she thinks she's a human. Well, she knows she's a robot, but she wants to be a human. She pretends to be a girl. And, well, anyways, these are basically our two main protagonists. She was created by the creator of coils and coil technology. So she's like this advanced, otherworldly, sophisticated robot that's not really sophisticated, more like a human. And honestly, from the promotional art, she just seemed kind of like a fan servicey robot, which there's a little bit of fan service with her, but I'm actually kind of surprised by the turn her character took when I actually started watching the show. She seemed a bit more reserved and a bit caring at the beginning for, her creator, who she calls father who, spoiler alert, I'm going to have a spoiler warning at the beginning of the video anyways, but spoiler alert, he dies. Okay, so she loses her sense of purpose, and for whatever reason, when he dies, she was told by him that she needs to become somebody who, like a collector who collects illegal coils, like Kyoma. So Kyoma, who doesn't necessarily like coils or the new technology, now has to team up with her for whatever reason. She decided to allow this lady she begged to let her hunt coils, works with this guy who basically kept her from her quote unquote father in his time of need. But either way, she works with him, and she doesn't seem too resistant on it all. And, well, you can see where this is going. You got a robot who kind of considers herself a human, and you got a man who hates the new type of technology. You can tell that, their whole relationship dynamic is going to be based around him accepting her, which seems to be where it's going. And honestly, that's my favorite portion of it so far, other than the somewhat confusing world and the crazy logic behind all of this. That seems to be where it's going. And as far as from a character standpoint, that's probably going to be the most entertaining portion of the show for me, apart from the action, because, oh my god, the action looks beautiful. The studio is Studio Orange, I believe, and Studio 3 Hertz, so 3HZ. I've never particularly heard of either of these studios, to be perfectly honest with you, but hey, they did a good job. I heard this from the producers of Darker Than Black, not necessarily Bones. I don't know what it means by producers or creators of Darker Than Black. I don't know which creators from which department who did what are doing what for this, because it looks like it's got its own original manga, so it's probably not the writers. It's not the same animation studio as Darker Than Black, so honestly, I couldn't really tell you. Maybe they're just producers. Either way, I'm liking where it's going with the characters. There's a few other characters on the side, and especially one who the episodes I watched 1 and 2. From episode 2, there seems to be this cyborg named the Loser, and he's like an art thief, but he's not an art thief because he's never stolen anything. But apparently you'll see why he's never technically stolen anything in the show. He has his own vendetta. He knows about this war that happened that Kyomo is a part of, the guy who hates the new technology. And it's all very interesting with tons of technobabble. I can't wait to review it. I can't wait to watch it. Surely this show, from the well-produced action scenes and the interesting plot and premise, despite the lack of good execution from the plot so far in the first 2 episodes, I can tell it's going to do very well on Toonami. It seems like a show that would do well on Toonami. Not necessarily that it's like any of these other big shows on Toonami, but it just seems like it will do well for the type of show that it is. It's got some fan service in it. Not a lot, just a little. Just a very minuscule amount. It's got plenty of action in spades, and I bet the techno jargon is going to make a lot of people think that it's a masterpiece. I think I like it so far, and I think it has the potential to be really good, but we'll see where it goes. Anyways, this has been AnimeQuest, and I will see you guys on the next quest for anime.